Hello and welcome to Insights, the podcast with your host, Joe Pane. Join me in this deep exploration of our personal journeys from ambition to meaning, where we stop living life fast and start living life deep. This is a journey of waking up and realizing that our lives have never been about us, but about others. True success leaves positive ripple effects on other souls. I believe that success needs to be redefined from our own personal ambitious endeavors to be redefined as the value that we leave and give to others around us. Join me now as we begin this journey to deeper connections, even more fulfillment, some fun, curiosity, life, love, and all good things. Your deeper journey from ambition to meaning starts right now. Hello and welcome to episode 42. I really appreciate you joining me. It was such a thrill this week. I ran a series of different workshops with different groups, and it's always such a delight and a bit of a thrill when someone shares with me that they've been listening in on the podcasts and how I'm on their morning walk, or it's just such a thrill. And I really appreciate those of you who have reached out and shared with me some beautiful words around how the podcast is this podcast is adding value to your life. So I deeply appreciate that. Just a couple of housekeeping things before we hop into today's insights. Just recently, just the last about 4 or 5 days ago at the time of this recording, we just did the free intro to extended disc training, the one that's a free intro for a day and a half. For those of you who are interested in behavioral profiling, it's a wonderful workshop. I had about 150 people show up, and it was phenomenal. I got to play and explore deeply behavioral profiling, the difference between behavioral profiling and personality profiling, and a whole host of other things. And many of you have been asking, when is the next one? So the last one for the year is October 22, 23. So if you're interested in behavioral profiling for yourself, or if you're a coach, or even if you're just interested in behavioral profiling in general, it's a wonderful opportunity over a day and a half to have a deep dive into what it's all about. To get details or to register for it so you can receive the Zoom link when it comes close to the time, all you need to do is go to my website. So joepane.com.au, and there's a link there, and you'll be able to catch up with me in October. And that'll be on Zoom as well. All right. So let's hop into today's chat. Today's insight is going to be about the difference between emotions and feelings. And I believe that this distinction between the differences between emotions and feelings is something very, very important when it comes to our own emotional well-being and our emotional fitness. It's really, really key. So here's the insight I want to share with you. I languaged this together on Sunday morning as I was just sort of chilling back after a run. And I shared this insight with my wife. She said to me, "You seem to be more useful than just putting out the bins." And I had to laugh because I said, I've got this language. I've finally been able to define the difference between emotions and feelings in one sentence. And I shared it with her, and she goes, "That's good." So I'm here to share it with you. So here it is. And then we're going to go and explore this more deeply. So the difference between emotions and feelings is that emotions come from our experiences and our feelings come from our thoughts. Emotions come from our experiences and our feelings come from our thoughts. In a previous podcast, I cannot remember for the life of me which one it was. I did talk about emotions and feelings, but this is a brand new insight and distinction, another level. So let me explain what this means. Emotions are from experiences, and thoughts and feelings are from thoughts. You see, most of the emotions that we feel during the average day are not emotions. They're actually feelings. And feelings are a mentalized state. Mentalized state is a fancy way of saying a feeling is something that we create through what we focus on and what we make what we focus on mean. So in other words, our feelings come from it's like a psychological construct based on our interpretation of what we are witnessing, or what we are seeing, or what we've been told, or the conversation that we've had, or whatever the whole experience has been. It's our interpretation of it. But Joe, you just said that emotions come from feelings, from experiences, and feelings come from thoughts. But you just said feelings come from experience. Well, let me be very clear now. Let me decipher between the two. So when an emotion comes from an experience, it's organic. It's in the body. It's a natural response. When for example, if you won $4 million in a lottery, you would feel a certain emotional state, whatever it might be, beyond thrill, like out of body experience, or whatever it might be, right? Right? You don't have to think about that. It's an organic, natural response. If we go to the opposite end of the extreme of the spectrum, you hear news of somebody that who may have passed away, well, you're going to feel the appropriate emotion of sadness and heaviness, or maybe straight into a grief mode or some kind. That's you don't have to think about that. When my boys were born, my twin boys, when they were born in June the 3rd, 2008, I didn't have to process and think about how to feel about it. I was just overwhelmed with glee, joy, peace, love, divinity. It was just amazing. I can't even describe it. Those words don't even come close to describing it. So the point I'm making is that emotions are in our body, and they're an organic reaction to the experience that we're having. Whereas a feeling is an echo of the interpretation of our reality. It's the thought that we have. So the way it kind of goes is it's the thought followed by the meaning that we associate into that thought. And meaning is our interpretation, which is filtered through the meaning that we derive, the meaning that we arrive to from the thought that we've had is a reflection. It's filtered through our belief system, our values, our perspective, our identity, our energy type, our behavioral profile. It's on defining moments, on memories, on memories. So that's where the feeling comes from. It's our interpretation of what we think is going on. Whereas when someone has passed, or we get lucky and we win a whole bunch of cash in the lottery, we don't have to put a meaning onto that. We just emotionally, organically respond to that or react to that. Or when, just pretend that you're interested in the footy for a moment, will you? And if, you're at the footy and your team is winning or losing, or a decision has gone against you, we emotionally react. It's a wonderful thing. We don't have to think about what's going on right now. We just emote it. So this is the difference. Now, the reason why I'm sharing this insight with you here is because most of the time we're not in emotional states, we're in feeling states. And you and I are in absolute control of those feelings if you are aware that you are generating them. If you're not aware that you're generating them, you just continually become a slave to your feelings. So let me give you an example, because a lot of us, if we're not aware of this, we tend to live in, we get wound up in a cycle of thought, feeling, emotion, like thought, meaning, emotion. We get caught up in it, and then let me be very clear. So, for example, you might be walking down the street, right, and across the road, you see a friend of yours, and you wave to your friend. You might even yell out their name and say, "Hey, Bill," or Jack, or whatever, right? And they don't see you. Like, I've had this experience where a good friend of mine, I sometimes I wonder whether he's there sometimes, because like he'll be staring at me from across the street and he won't see me. He's in his own world somewhere else, right? So I've had this experience with him so many times. And if you're listening to this, you might know who you are. To give you a clue, I followed you many years ago. I followed you all the way to the gym, flashing my lights and bipping my car right behind you, and you didn't even hear me or see me. Now you know who you are. So I love it. So anyway, so let's pretend we're walking down the street, we see our friend across the road, and we yell out their name, and they don't see us. Now, the meaning that we give that, there's a meaning. We're meaning-making machines with drop-down menus where we can choose what we can make this mean. So, for example, let's just say I'm a bit of a victim of my own thinking, and I make that mean, oh, my friend doesn't like me anymore. Let's just say I make it mean that. As a result of that thought that I have chosen, my friend doesn't like me anymore, I might start to feel sad or rejected. And because of that sadness and rejection, if I hold on to that feeling, That feeling over a period of 1, 2, 3, 4 hours can become a mood, can become a mood. Feelings, if we hang on to our feelings long enough, which is basically me saying, if we hold on to the meaning that we've associated into what we've thought, and we hold on to that feeling for hours, it becomes a mood. So here I am down the street. This is a story I've just made up as an example. I see my friend across the street, yell out, "Hey, Bill, Jack, John." And he or she doesn't respond, right? Because they don't see me. That's all that's happened. They haven't seen me. But I put an interpretation of that of my friend doesn't like me or they don't seem to like me. And I stick with this feeling, or that produces a feeling of sadness and rejection in me. That sadness and rejection then hangs around for a while and becomes a mood. And then as a result of that, the action I might take is I might isolate myself a little. And then that isolation becomes a trigger in and of itself. The isolation creates new thoughts. And the new thought might be, well, nobody ever reaches out to me anyway. And as a result of that thought, the fear and the meaning I've just given that thought, I might feel alone or angry. And then in the midst of that anger, the heat of that anger, the peak of that anger, I might decide to send an angry email. And then after I sent that angry email, the thought I have is, oh man, I shouldn't have done that. And now I feel guilty. And because of that guilt, I'll start maybe, I don't know, doing something self-destructive behavior. And then on it goes. My God, when I say to people, to clients and people, when I'm in my seminars or training sessions, group sessions, coaching sessions, when I say to people, you create your bloody reality by what you focus on, the thoughts that you have, the interpretation of your thoughts create feelings. Those feelings, if you remain attached to them, become moods. And those moods transform into temperament, part of your temperament. And then it becomes an illusory part of your reality where you think that's just how it is. Life is not how it is. Life is how you and I are. So we are an accumulation of all the thoughts and the meanings we've associated to our experiences, and therefore the feelings that we've had, which contributes to our moods, which contributes indirectly, or directly, I should say, to our temperament. Our temperament is the general energy that we carry with us everywhere that we go. That's my definition, not the dictionary definition. I'm loving this conversation. I hope you're digging this as much as I am, because you can reverse engineer this, right? You can have a thought like, if, for example, that story I just made up, that example I just made up, if that was true, and I became aware of how I'm generating these mentalized states of feeling, I could then go back to myself and say, well, hold on a minute. How do you know that your friend doesn't like you? What on earth makes you think that? The fact is that all that happened was you're on one side of the street, your friend's on the other side of the street, and they simply didn't see you. And then I can reverse that even more. I can say to myself, well, have you ever had a friend say, hey, I saw you down the street and I yelled out to you, but you didn't say, hey, has that ever happened the other way around? I'm sure it has. And then I'm thinking, oh man, how rude am I? I didn't see them. And then I was thinking, well, only if only they knew I had all these things on my mind, or I was thinking about something else, or I was focusing on my shopping list, or whatever it was. The fact is that the only thing that's happened is that there's someone that you know on the other side of the street who hasn't seen you. That's it. And all these trains of thoughts that we have and the feelings that we create through the meaning that we have is just crazy. It's crazy. My wife brought up something fascinating the other day. I love the conversations we have. She said to me, do you believe that your actions come from your beliefs? And I said, yeah, I do. That's how it seems to work. She said, what if I told you that after a while, if you were forced to take certain actions, that your beliefs might change? I thought about it for a moment. I thought, yeah, that can happen. If you're forced into some kind of action, if you feel that you're forced and limited to the choice of no choice and have to do a certain action, yes, you can go into some kind of belief, create a new belief. And we're going off on a tangent here. So, for example, here in Melbourne, Victoria, we're at the current time of recording, we're in stage 4 restrictions. There's curfews. We can only go out once or twice a day, only if you're exercising or going out to get essential shopping. All retail is shut down. Curfews, can't go out after 8 o'clock, all this kind of stuff, right? You can't travel more than 5K away from your house, blah, blah, blah. And we also are forced to wear masks or face coverings, right? Now, To give an example of thought, meaning, and feeling, like in other words, the thoughts that we have create. So sometimes what happens is I've noticed that a lot of people that I've spoken to or run into or bumped into on my walks and my runs and stuff like this, there's a fear amongst some people, not all, but some. And the fear is they're wearing their masks out of fear. Fear of being judged, fear of catching the virus, fear of infecting others. There's a whole bunch of reasons, right? And that fear has been induced by the mask for some people, not all. And what's fascinating is that the action that's been forced upon them, there's a thought and interpretation of what that action means. And for them, for some people, it means I have to put this mask on because I don't want to be infected. So I don't want to infect my kids or my mum or whoever's living with them, right? So it's a fear response. So the action itself has created a belief, a new level of belief around fear. I hope I'm making sense here. Whereas I wear a face covering, like it's not a mask, but it's a face covering that's appropriate. And I realized this the other morning. I wear it when I go out I go running most of the time, but once a week I'll go for a little walk around our local river. I just find it nice and relaxing. And the first time I went, I had my covering with me, my face covering, but I would take it off when no one was looking. And then I would put it on. And I thought, this is not right, because if someone sees me without my covering, some people might feel really uncomfortable about that. So now I've put my covering on and I'll leave it on like a mask. It just stays on the whole time I walk around. The point I'm making is this. The reason why I put it on is because my thought is I want to be at peace the way I have always been when I come here and walk around this blessed, beautiful river. So I keep the mask, the covering, whatever you want to call it, on over my nose and face, etc., so I don't have to be worried about A, making other people feel uncomfortable, B, being judged if I'm caught without it, C, having to look out for people coming around the corner in case they tell me off or whatever. So I decide to keep it on because my thought is, the thought I have, the meaning I've given the thought of the mask is peace. I'm going to put it on so I can be at peace so no one can bother me. And the feeling I get from that interpretation is one of calmness and joy, so I can continue to experience my experience of walking around our beautiful river, feeling as good as I was feeling pre-corona. I hope I just hope this is making sense. I hope I'm explaining this in a really, really clear way. So the point I'm making is this is happening every day. I'm not talking about the masks. I'm talking about every day. We all have these thoughts, whatever the thoughts are. The thought about catching the train or whatever it might be. We're always having thoughts, and we are continually interpreting what those thoughts mean. And the point I'm making is that most of the emotions that we have during the day are not emotions, they're feelings, which are echoes of the interpretation of the meaning that we've given the thoughts that we have, or another word for thought is what we focus on. And I've been teaching, I've taught over 6,000 coaches in the last 14 years that what you focus on is what you get, to the exclusion of everything else, that what you focus on expands. And guess what? What you stop focusing on ceases to exist in your awareness. So we are in complete control of this. We're in complete control of our feeling state. Oh, my Lord, I hope this really lands with whoever is listening, because the quality of your life is absolutely determined by the quality of your experiences. And the ultimate amplifier of all of your experiences is how you feel. How you feel. Yes, how you emote, your emotions, of course. But most of the time, the emotions that we're feeling are not emotions. They're mentalized feeling states, which is a reflection of our interpretation of our thoughts. All right. I've thoroughly loved delivering this particular episode. I trust and hope that you've loved it. If you haven't given me a 5-star review yet, and you genuinely want to, you don't have to give it to me because you might know me or whatever. But if you love it, if you're thinking this is of genuine value, I would love for you to go on Apple Podcasts and give me a 5-star review. I think there's 74 5-star reviews there now. I'm just deeply, deeply grateful for every one of you who have done that for me. Really appreciate it. And just as we wrap up, just to put another bookend to our session here today, our chat today, just remember that if you're wanting to come along to the next free intro to extended disc on October 22, 23, which is the 1.5-day free public event for behavioral profiling, just go to joepane.com.au and you can register your interest there, and you'll receive a Zoom link in October to come along. All right, so Hey, thank you so much for tuning in. Love you. And enjoy your night. Enjoy your morning. Enjoy your afternoon, wherever you may be. Thank you so much. And I'll catch up with you in the next episode. Bye for now. I'm Joe Pane, and you've been listening to Insights, the podcast. If you haven't yet, subscribe, rate, and review this podcast. You can now follow my insights on Facebook and Instagram. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'm looking forward to being with you again very soon in the next episode of Insights, the podcast.